Hi, are you recording me?
Yes, I am.
Oh boy, that's scary.
So behave.
Yeah, so behave. Thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to, as always, I try to start right on time at 6:30, and ultimately we're going to spend a half an hour of time with each other, and I want to make sure that it's valuable to you. And I don't want to waste your time while you're here. So ultimately, when you're here, you know, what am I looking to get out of this workshop? I'm looking for you to be able to take information with you that you can share, that you can learn from, and also make sure that you understand where things are going. You know, where things are going, and in your sharing, if you see fit, you know, let people know. You know, I mean, that's a big thing, because, you know, recently I've been talking to a lot of people, and I've been in this area for 13 years now. It's going on 13 years. And I had someone just come in the other day, and I said, they live right up the block. They're like, I didn't even know the office was here. And I'm like, really? So it was shocking to me that they didn't know, because I've been here for a while. And you know, ultimately, when we do these types of workshops, they're for people to understand how not to be in the conditions that they are before, how to take better care of themselves, have some knowledge. Now, granted, in 30 minutes, you have a very limited. You might want to watch the thing, because he's sitting right in front of it.
It's right between their heads.
It's right between their heads. Okay. No, that's okay. Right. Don't
You're
worry
fine,
about it. You
Brett.
don't have to lean back. So, you know, but ultimately, you know, our concern is for you, okay, and how you learn, and you're engaged and you're healthy, and what's going on in your bodies, okay. You know, a lot of people come in with pain in the office who came because they had a problem. Yeah, right. Okay. Do you realize that after your problem is gone, that you still have to take care of yourself? Who knows that? Yeah. You know, a lot of people, you know, once their pain is gone, they stop doing things. You know, it's like saying, okay, I have cancer now. Let me start changing my diet and changing what I'm going to do. No, you have to do that before. You know, you have to do that before. So in saying that, I want you to have open hearts, open minds, on everything we talk about. So tonight, we're going to be talking about sports nutrition. My question to you is, whether it's for sports or anything else, isn't there something that you have to do with your nutrition? You know, don't you have to be aware of the foods and the things that you're doing in your diet? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
All right. So who here is active on a daily basis? Okay. All right. So who of you try to be, but because of work or, you know, because you're tired or what have you, aren't active? Okay. All right. So the thing is nutritional values and nutritive values for individuals that are active and not active are different. Okay. You have to. That's the first thing that you have to understand, because the nutritive values are really important in understanding where you're going to go. Now, my question to you is, you have someone like myself who does triathlons and is training for an Ironman distance. Is my nutritional requirements different than someone who's just doing mile runs? Yeah. Okay, so you have to look at the extent of the things that you're doing and how active you are, and be able to gauge the foods that you're eating before and after. So for energy while you're doing it, and then do you need energy while you're doing it if it's a longer distance, and then after you're done, how to recover. Okay, so those are the big things. So ultimately, it's very personal to each person. The other thing you have to look at is, what are some of the differences between not only activity, but between people that you have to look at? What are some of the other differences you have to look at? Age. What else?
Male versus female.
Male versus female. Okay. Weight. Okay. You know,
Ability.
Huh? Ability, right? Because if you're just starting and you're looking to get to another level, there's different things that you have to look at and make sure you're not hurting yourself. And we do all workshops on exercise and everything else. So there's a lot of factors that go into place. So what I'm going to go through with the sports nutrition is very basic in understanding. Okay, but if you really want to find out, you need to figure out how your body responds to things. You have to keep track of, okay, did I do better when I was eating more protein, or was I eating more fat, or was I eating more carbohydrate? It really is a science. I mean, it really is. Years ago, athletes used to just, they used to just go play, and they would just sort of eat, and now, I mean, there's a whole science. I mean, like, if you look at any of the professional athletes now, I mean, their diets are usually very, very, very strict. There are some of them that are not, like some of them like Skittles and, candies and stuff. But even that is sugar that can give them energy. Now, sugar is not necessarily the best way to do it. And that's why I never recommend people drinking Gatorade, because the first ingredient is sugar. Okay, so it gives you energy, but it's high in carbohydrates that are not healthy for you. So those are the things that we're looking at. So we're going to look at some of the basic necessities. There's a lot of slides here. If you want copies of it later, let me know. Just sign the sheet, say I want copies of it. But ultimately, I might skim through some to get to some poignant points in understanding. But physical activity, just like I talked about, may increase the need for some vitamins and minerals. However, the increased requirement generally can be attained by consuming a balanced diet based on a variety of foods. This is key. Okay? How many of you eat 5 to 6 small meals of food a day? Okay.
5 or 6 small snacks a day.
5 or 6 small snacks, or, right, well, that's the thing, you could look at it that way. You could look at it that way, because if you look at it as a snack, because really, honestly, I mean, who has ever eaten a foot long at Subway? Who's ever, okay. So the thing is, rather than eat the whole thing in one sitting, split it. Because what's going to happen is it's going to be better for your glucose tolerance when you're processing it through your body. Okay, because what's going to happen is you eat it and the body's able to digest it. And I'm not saying Subway is a good thing, but I'm just giving an example. And then eat the other half 2 hours or 3 hours later, because what happens is it breaks up the ability for your body to break things down. And actually, when you're training, it's really important to do that, because you need to consistently hydrate yourself. And anybody that runs long or endurance distances knows that you don't drink enough water just on that day. You have to hydrate and drink a lot of the stuff before you get in there. Okay, because the thing is that helps, with keeping you from cramping and everything else. So if you're doing short, high burst energy type stuff, a lot of energetic, you might need short burst carbohydrate, sugar type foods, okay, to get you to go through that. But ultimately, you have to start with your diet. Okay, if you're not eating good foods to begin with, just trying to eat foods around it, you're not going to be able to change it. So those are important aspects. And also, when you are starting to do exercise and train, okay, one of the biggest things is give it time, because it's going to take months before your body chemistry starts to change and is able to accommodate to the things that you need, and then you have to reevaluate the food you're eating. So those are the big things that we look at. Individuals at risk for low vitamin or mineral intake are those who consume a low energy diet for extended periods of time. This is people that take very low caloric intake into their body and don't eat proper nutrition. Like has anybody ever, in the past, the Weight Watchers number counting, type diets? There's certain points for certain foods. Great, but it's not teaching you how to eat. It's just saying, okay, I mean, so if you eat a box of donuts in the morning and you've absorbed all your points and you don't eat for the rest of the day, is that healthy? I mean, come on, really. I mean, so the thing is, one of the things you have to look at is where the nutrition is coming from, the caloric intake is coming from. All right. So what usually has higher caloric intake? Fats, carbohydrates, or proteins? Carbs. Because you can eat lean meat fats, okay, and they don't have as many calories. So if you eat a piece of, if you eat a single serving, and that's another thing you have to look at, a single serving of meat, like chicken or meat, it's somewhere usually between 3 to 4 ounces, usually anywhere between 150 to about 300 calories. You eat a single piece of bread, it's anywhere from 300, like a single piece of well, you can have toast, it's grain toast, it depends on what you're eating health-wise. But if you go into a store and get a roll, a bulky roll, those things, like a bagel, say for a bagel, who eats bagels? Yeah. In the morning, do you know how much a single bagel from Einstein Brothers is?
500 plus.
Huh?
500 plus.
That's with the stuff on it. But the bagel itself is like 250, 300, maybe 350 calories. Just for the bagel, bread. So the carbohydrates usually, when you eat that stuff, has much more caloric intake. Salads and greens, on the other hand, have a very low intake, even though they're carbohydrates. Okay, but we're talking about the starchy carbohydrates that have a lot of calorie intake. So you have to be these individuals are at risk of developing the marginal subclinical nutrient deficiency, although vitamin and mineral supplementation may improve the nutritional status of an individual who consumes marginal amounts of nutrients, and may enhance the physical performance of athletes with overt nutrient deficiencies. There is no scientific evidence to support the general use of vitamin and mineral supplements. So that's why on every single bottle of nutrients, supplements, and I take supplements, it says not proven by the FDA and blah, 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 and all this stuff. But you have to be aware of the things that you're doing, that you have to feed those particular things. So there are certain studies when you start looking at it, but overall you have to start just eating healthier in order to start anything. And before you even start doing it, you need to do activity. Okay, that's the key. You have to do activity. So estimates of nutrient requirements for physically active people are based on population standards. In the government, it's the RDA, and that's a recommended minimum, a minimum of what you're supposed to get. Okay, I mean a person who was running at high levels and doing high intake activity has to eat more calories, has to take more than the RDA. I mean, it's not even a question of the RDA is such a minimum requirement, and then you have to look at the blood chemistry of each person and figure out exactly what it is they need. And then you have to figure out, okay, well, I ran today and I ate this food, and this food. Okay, which one gave me more energy? I know a woman that she, before volleyball, my daughter plays volleyball. Before volleyball, she would eat avocados. Avocados are high in what? Fat and omega-3s. Okay, fat. And she absolutely did phenomenal. Why do you think that is?
Because she exercises more.
Sustaining.
It's sustained energy. That's what it is. It's the fat. But the fats actually have 9 kilocalories. Okay, 9 kilocalories of energy per ounce it's milligrams. Sorry. So that's why when you said fats have the most calories, that's why you thought of it. But if you actually look at it, when you look at the servings, it's usually the grains that have more. And that's where the carbohydrates come in. If you actually look at the actual numbers, there's fats have 9 kilocalories per gram of energy, carbohydrates have 4, and proteins have 4. Okay, but the thing is, it's the types of foods you're eating where the calories come in. That's why I always tell people stay away from the carbs, because the carbs they're eating are very high in caloric intake. And if you eat more across the so-called paleo type diet, I'm not saying that that's the way you should eat, but if you're eating salad and meats, okay, you're not going to have as many calories. It's just like if you're not eating pastas or things like that. So, so it's really important to understand these standards are minimums. You can look at them, but there's exceptions there. They don't look at pregnant women and people with medical problems. There are athletes out there that have specific medical issues that you have to deal with. Diabetics, some people have adrenal gland insufficiencies. There's a lot of those things that go on. So, vitamins, now we have to understand what they are. Vitamins are essential organic compounds that function as regulators of protein, carbohydrate, and fat metabolism. So the vitamins that are there, so what is a vitamin? Name one.
Potassium.
That's a mineral. Potassium is a mineral.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, C, vitamin C. Okay, no, that's okay, but this is why we do this, because there's a difference between the two. These help to regulate the metabolism. Although vitamins are necessary to transform the potential energy in food to chemical energy for work, they're not direct sources of energy. That's one of the most important statements that you can put there. The vitamins themselves are not direct sources of energy. They are there to assist in converting the fat, protein, carbohydrates, and fat metabolism into energy. Okay? So don't think that if you take vitamins you're going to get energy to work out. It's the foods that you eat around it that are going to make a difference. Okay? They talk about ergogenic benefits, first placebo effects. A recent issue is the use of antioxidant vitamins to enhance performance and promote health. These vitamins include C and E along with beta-carotene, a precursor of vitamin A. Preliminary evidence suggests a potential indirect beneficial effect of supplementation with these vitamins on performance by reducing skeletal muscle damage. So what these are doing is they're helping keep the skeletal muscles in play. Okay? And enhancing some aspects of immune function. These provocative findings await confirmation of well-designed clinical trials. So this is the way it starts. Okay? People need to understand, it starts by people taking the stuff and learning about it. But the thing is, if you're eating a healthier diet, okay, you get a lot of this stuff, and that's what we talk about later on. Minerals are inorganic elements and act as cofactors for enzymes that influence all aspects of energy metabolism. So the difference here is an essential organic compound. Oops. Minerals are inorganic. Okay, so that means they are like heavy metals, potassium, salts, sodium, name one, magnesium, huh? Copper, calcium.
Zinc.
Yeah, there's a disease that deals with copper deficiencies. Okay, so these are inorganic elements, but they're cofactors for the enzymes. So they help the enzyme. They connect to the enzymes and help them to break things down and then process the foods from there. So that's the big difference between it. Reduced body iron status may alter physical performance, and this is really important, and it's usually among female athletes. One of the other things is also iron is a necessity for pregnancy. Okay, and a lot of people that are vegan or vegetarian have iron deficiencies. Okay, so the importance of it is really understanding what your body needs. Okay, and where it's going, because isn't pregnancy like an athletic event?
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean, it really, really is, especially when you get to giving birth. I mean, it is enduring. You need to have the nutrition that's there, and we just did a workshop last week on pregnancy and chiropractic. But there's a whole other slew of issues that you're looking at. But think about the things that you're doing. So the biggest thing, if you get away from this, that vitamins are essential organic compounds, and minerals are inorganic compounds. That's the big difference. Glycolysis. This is what happens in your body when, and this is the scientific technical portion of this workshop, is what happens in your body when you process some foods that come into your body. It breaks down the glycogen or sugars, okay, and then what ends up happening is in glycolysis, it breaks apart the sugar and it forms ATP. Adenosine triphosphate is the energy that our body produces. Okay. If you look, there's what they call glycolysis, citric acid cycle or the Krebs cycle, and then the electron transport chain. Which one makes the most? Pretty easy, huh? A lot of nutritionists focus on these two areas and they forget about this. You know where this happens? It happens within the cell. It happens intracellularly, in the mitochondria. Okay, so what ends up happening is inside the cell, there's a nucleus, and then there's these little particles that float around. There's ribosomes. There's a lot of different. I'm not going to go through all the organelles, but there's one called the mitochondria, and I believe I have a picture on it up there. This is what processes. It's this little tiny piece that processes and produces all the energies that we need. Okay. If you look at it, The metabolic pathway of glycolysis looks like this. This is the first one. Pretty complex. Okay, but it goes like this. It takes a glucose, breaks it off, breaks it down, and then it comes out and it comes pyruvate, but it forms the ATPs. Okay? If you want this and you want to talk more in detail about this, let me know. Because I will sit for hours with you on this stuff. And they all replenish themselves. So in here, basically, you're just taking the foods that you eat and it's breaking it down. Okay? In here, this is the citric acid cycle of molecules and the enzymes. These, you see all these citrate, cis-aconitate, isocitrate, ketoglutarate. These are all coenzyme A. These are all malate, is malic acid. These are all molecules that you need, and also they usually come from enzymatic processes, and they come from the minerals that you're taking in. Because what ends up happening is this will take coenzyme A, it will throw it in there, and then this process will connect in with this process, and they'll form more ATP, right? And then we have the electron transport chain. This is the one that, this process right here is the one that produces 32 to 34 ATP. It produces 16 times the energy that the citric acid cycle is going on. So in here, you see what's going on here? This is the citric acid cycle. That's going on inside the cell in here. It goes on in here. Okay, and then it kicks something into here, and then this process continues to produce all that energy. Coenzyme Q, cytochrome C. This happens in the membrane of the mitochondria. This is the membrane of the cell. Okay, so that's out here. And then there's this little membrane in there. It happens all in that membrane. It's like this little tiny piece that produces all the power. So one of the things that happens is heart function. When you take a heart medication, what is one of the things that happens when you take heart medications? You lose coenzyme Q. Okay? In other countries, when you have problems with your heart, the first thing, not coenzyme Q, CoQ10, sorry. In a lot of other countries, when you have problems with your heart, first thing they give you is CoQ10. CoQ10 is one of the factors in here that goes through the electron transport chain. So it's also important for heart function. These are the energy patterns that go through, and these processes that you're looking at are really complex, but ultimately you want to feed them with the vitamins and minerals that they need to be able to process. Okay, so glucose is a sugar. It's sucrose and fructose combined. Okay, and then it comes out here and it forms all of these. And then in here you have citric acid cycle. You have these minerals that are coming in here that if you're lacking, your body's not going to function. And then you come through there. So ultimately, these are the foods that we're going to look at and getting, and I know that that stuff is very complex, but I put it up there for you to understand that this is not a simple process. Your body really goes through a lot, and neurologically, your body has to be at its optimum so it can actually structurally get everything to function properly. As physically active individuals seek to maximize essential nutrient intakes, proper food selection is necessary. So, minerals and B vitamins, very important for stress and regeneration, and the minerals are there for, what are they there for? Does anybody remember?
Energy.
Cofactors for the enzymes, to help produce energy. They're parts of the energy metabolism, okay? So, beef, lean, pork, lean, chicken, skinless, tuna, water packed, or, and you have to be careful of tuna, make sure not having other things in it, kidney beans and yogurt. Oh, look at that. And this adds in what?
Calcium.
Adds in calcium, but what else?
Probiotic.
Probiotics. Probiotics is huge in the digestion of all this stuff. And when you're doing this stuff, you need this stuff. So these are high in minerals. The vitamins A, C, and E, carrots, peanuts, and if you're allergic to peanuts, I'm sorry, but these are high in fat. Broccoli, spinach, strawberries, and berries. These are just some foods that you can use. When you are training, or if you're doing physical activity, one of the best things to do is within 45 minutes after you're done working out, you must replenish your body with a good protein of some sort. Okay, not something that's going to be interfering, but you need to put some protein into your body, because otherwise the processes that I was talking about, where you have the glycolysis and the electron transport chain and the Krebs or citric acid cycle, okay, those processes will start degrading and they won't function as well. They need that stuff to be able to get the energy back into the cells and help the cells to replenish and help your body regenerate. They need the energy, because after you've worked out, you've exhausted everything that's going on, you need to add something in. So ultimately, you want to look at a decent meal with something in this group and something in this group, and it will allow you to heal better. There's a lot of drinks and stuff out there that they use and things of that nature. Food is the best way to replenish it. Okay, food is definitely the best, because go ahead, Herb.
Chocolate milk has been popular.
Chocolate milk has been popular recently because it's advertised.
Oh.
Because it's advertised a lot, because milk has a fairly high amount of protein, but not as high as some of this stuff. Okay, and one of the reasons because in a liquid form, it's more readily accessible to the body. So those are things, but ultimately, most chocolate milk has a lot of sugar in it. Lactose itself is a sugar, okay, lactose itself is a sugar, and it's hard to break down in our body, okay, so you need to make sure, and a lot of the times, the milks are enriched with vitamins, or enhanced, or whatever you want to call, okay, because they don't have that in there naturally. Why not just eat the natural whole food that has it? Okay, and it becomes better. And granted, I'll grab something when I'm in a rush. I will, grab something periodically that's, that's not the healthiest, but I know I need to get something on my body, and I know I'm not going to get home. But it's planning for that. It's really knowing that you're going to be home. Like, I'm going to be riding 112 miles this weekend to figure out what I'm going to need to do when I do my triathlon. And I have to figure out what my nutrition levels are going to be at each level. And being 250 pounds when I'm riding, I have different nutritional requirements. I sweat more, I need more electrolytes. So the thing is, it really comes into what you're doing, if you're doing endurance or not. But after I'm done, I'm going to go home and probably chow down on a steak. Or fish. I love fish, and fish is the big one that I look at. I like to eat fish afterwards because it just makes me feel better. And you have to figure out what's going on, but it's paramount that after you work out that you have replenishing. Okay, because a lot of people forget. Go ahead, please.
Anything specifically to avoid right after?
Yes, high sugary foods. Yeah, just anything that with the high carbs and sugary, they'll just make you feel sick. Okay, because they will replenish and make you feel a little with energy, but they won't allow, you'll actually may start feeling more joint pain, because what ends up happening is the sugars will break down really fast, and it won't replenish all the fluids and everything that need to be corrected. Okay, especially in the muscles, you might feel more soreness for several days. Okay.
Sugar is an inflammatory too.
Yes, it is. Sugar is an inflammatory. So that's why, and water, obviously replenishing with good, healthy water, and lemon. I usually put lemon in my water. So a lot of the times, a lot of people are indiscriminate in the use of these things, and one of the biggest things here is because of the interest in maximizing performance. A lot of athletes use dietary supplements to get competitive advantages, but performance doesn't improve because of that. What's the only way? It'll help you in your recovery, but what in essence improves your practice? You have to do the thing that you're doing in order to get better at it. Okay, nutrition just helps you to tweak your recovery times and tweak the way the body responds to things, okay? But it's not gonna necessarily improve your performance. I mean, you could argue that yes, it may, but ultimately, if you want to improve your performance, you have to do the exercise again and again and again, you know? So for me, like I said, I'm doing 112 miles this week. I've never been on my bicycle for 112 miles. I think the most I've ever done is 80. And it's like, I'm like, okay, that's 42 miles more than I've ever done, you know, but you have to, it's just practice, it's practice. But then you learn what your body needs. And for me, like I said, I need more because I expend more power while I'm doing those things. And then, so ultimately, you need to, if you're gonna be an athlete professionally, you need to understand what the nutrition deficiencies you have, okay? And especially as a woman with hormonal changes that are different than men's hormonal changes, you have to understand testosterone levels and estrogen levels. And so there's a lot. I actually, in finishing with this, was at a seminar a couple of weeks ago. I was at one this past weekend teaching, and I was at one a couple of weeks before that teaching too. And there was a gentleman there that was talking, he takes care of a lot of top level athletes as a chiropractor, and he was talking about how 99% of them are taking some sort of PED. They just know how to play the chemistry game. What they do is performance enhancing drugs. What they do is they know how to time the tests and how not to be tested positive for things. And then he was talking about a guy that was, a bodybuilder. Okay, and have you seen the bodybuilders nowadays? They're gross. I mean, these guys, they're just like, I mean, some people think that looks great, but I mean, 300 pounds, and they can't even wipe their bums, basically. You know, they're all, I mean, they need help because they're so big. I mean, they're just so big. But he was saying that the guy was telling him the regimen that he goes on, it's like, because he takes one drug, his estrogen levels goes up, so he has to take more because he takes testosterone, his estrogen levels go up, so he has to take a drug to knock that down, and then after taking that drug, he has to take another drug. I was sitting there and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even remember all the stuff that he was talking about. Go ahead.
What happens to all of that as somebody gets older? That 300 pounds of,
But that's that, they don't care. That's,
what happens to it?
it's still muscle, it just doesn't, it has to stay toned. The muscle is still there. It doesn't necessarily, quote, turn to fat. The muscle is still there. It's just, it becomes flat because it's not toned. You know, so the thing is, it's more what the damage that they did with all the drugs, but that's a science unto itself. And ultimately, at our levels of activity, I tell people, just eat healthy throughout the day. If you want to do well at sports, make sure you're eating healthy throughout the day. And if you're not able to perform in sports and you're tired, that means something's wrong with your diet. Because you should be able to go out and do a limited amount of things until you get to another level. Until you start doing, pushing to another level. Okay, and that's what I've been trying to do this year with the triathlon, but I've been doing them for years now. But it's ultimately, you have to look at, and I go to, especially teenagers. Teenagers do not eat well. They just don't eat well, and they go to school, and then they expect to be able to perform at the sports that they're playing at, and they can't do it. Because their bodies are just collapsing, because ultimately your body will catabolize its own muscles in order to get energy. Okay, it'll start eating away at your own body just to get energy. So you have to make sure you're eating properly. And it's not just supplementation. You need to eat properly, then look at the supplementation. So if you want to do that stuff, talk to me and I'll sit down with you guys, reread everything, look at your diet, start looking at the minerals, get on my Fitness Pal and put the foods in that you're eating, and it'll actually give you a breakdown of what's in the foods. And then you really can figure out what's going on. Having said that, I thank you all for coming. I want to see everybody succeed at their best. And if you have questions, I will remain here for a few minutes. And if you guys are good, you're out of here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, that was great.